Hey y'all, thanks for watching. So today I want to talk to y'all about the impeachment, and I know everybody's kind of burned out on hearing about it, but I want to put my 2 cents in on it and what, what little bit of knowledge I have about the law, and again, just my opinion on the whole situation. Now, I went to state college, not university or anything like that, and I went to get a paralegal degree. So compared to someone like Alan Dershowitz, my understanding of the law is infantile. But what I do understand about the law is that I've never heard of a trial that was not a fact-finding exercise. That being said, I've never heard of a trial that wasn't trying to get to the truth. How do you get to the truth? What is the truth? Well, usually, whether it's a criminal or a civil complaint, you have to have a complainant. Somebody had to be injured somehow. So there's charges against you or there's a complaint against you. Well, how do you prove that I did these things or that another individual did these things? Well, it would help if you had evidence. Well, what form does evidence usually come in? Documents and witness testimony. Well, why do we need both? Why not just have one or the other? Well, say that you get into a car accident and it's written up by the officer that both people are at fault, both parties. And you say, clearly, I'm not at fault. I was driving, this person pulled out in front of me in traffic, and I hit them. It is clearly their fault. They were not paying attention. They were looking at their phone. They ran the red light. Whatever the situation was, they clearly weren't paying attention. Well, you live in a no-fault state where both parties are obligated to avoid having the accident. And the officer tells you that. Well, that may be so, legally. But you could go to civil court and say that this person is responsible because they were being negligent by not paying attention. They were looking at their phone, they were talking, they were trying to get something out of the back seat, whatever the heck it was. But you want to prove that. And you can say, I could prove I was paying attention because there's photographs from the state troopers and their reports showing and documenting tire marks, skid marks from where I put on my brakes to avoid hitting this person. Well, you could enter those photos into evidence, but you would probably do better to bring in the state trooper as a witness to put those photos in and the report into context. Now, that being said, who would be good as witnesses at the impeachment? I personally do not think that the Bidens would be good impeachment witnesses for either party, because they have no incentive to tell the truth to help the Republicans. And again, I don't believe this is the forum for it. This is the impeachment of the actions of the president, due to the actions of the president, not to the actions of the Bidens. Again, I don't support the Bidens, Joe Biden, however you look at it. And I think that they should be investigated. But this is not the forum for it. If they want to have a different House committee or a different Senate Intelligence Committee, whatever they want to do to get to the bottom of that, by all means do it. Because it looks pretty shady from the outside, to be honest. Now, that being said, it doesn't justify Trump's actions. Good witnesses for this. Everybody's talking about John Bolton and the manuscript that he had going around for his book and what that could imply, what he could possibly say on the stand. If what's being reported is true and is actually from John Bolton, and is an actual account of events that happened, it's pretty damning for the president. It goes on to show that they were withholding aid to get this investigation. Whether it was a sham investigation or not, it was an investigation into the Bidens to benefit the president, for no other reason than to benefit the president. To me, the most important, or second most, I would say, because or maybe just as most important as John Bolton at this point, is Lev Parnas. And people say, well, he's a criminal and blah, 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 blah. You got to look at the kind of person you're putting on there. Well, I'll say this. He's been able to contradict a lot of what the president has said about knowing him and Igor Fruman. by that, this new video that his attorney has released, Lev Parnas's attorney released, with a recording that sounds an awful lot like the president, Lev Parnas, and other people talking about foreign affairs at a dinner table with people who don't have security clearance, making foreign affairs decisions, sitting at a table with people who are not cleared, and listening to what they say and making decisions based on what they say. I don't know these men. I don't know who they are. They may have photos of me with them, but I take photos with thousands of people. Yeah, well, here's a recording of you sitting at a dinner table with this guy who's just some donor who's influencing your policy, influencing who you post to positions. It seems pretty clear, guys. And if it doesn't from there, I think the most damning thing so far that Mr. Parnas has said, that if you can validate it and prove that it's true, will blow the president's entire defense out of the water. And it's real simple. There was a quid pro quo with Poroshenko. The president of Ukraine, prior to Zelensky, who was a candidate in the same presidential race as Zelensky, who lost to Zelensky, there was a quid pro quo. If you want public support from the United States via Donald Trump, whether it's a White House meeting, whether it's a phone call, whether it's him publicly stating support of Poroshenko and Ukraine against Russia, offer an announcement of an investigation into the Bidens. If you can prove that, that proves everything. Because you can say, well, it doesn't really prove anything. Well, yeah, it does, because it goes to show leverage. It goes to show that he used the election and the meaning or the public support of Poroshenko over his head. Now, did that hurt him in any way? I mean, I think that's subjective. I'm sure that it did in some way. Ultimately, the election after the second round, because initially there were 39 candidates on the ballot. The second round went down to Zelensky and Poroshenko, and Zelensky won 63% to 24%, I believe it was, or maybe it was 73 to 24. Pretty much a landslide, 3 times the amount, it seemed like. So, I mean, that's with both races. There was a 62% turnout by the voters both times. So Zelensky was, by a landslide, the winner. But was any of that helped by Trump not supporting Poroshenko? Quite possibly. I mean, that number could have been a whole lot closer. It could have been 60-40 if Trump would have thrown his support behind him. And we see that his support and his voice goes a long way with candidates here in the United States running for office. But again, if you go back to the timeline and you look at it, it kind of adds up. Zelensky Poroshenko did not have impending foreign aid to hold up. It didn't come along until June. The end of June, when the Pentagon and the Department of State allocated those funds, or obligated those funds rather, the nearly $400 million for Ukraine, wasn't until the end of July. Zelensky and Poroshenko and their election ended the end of April, April 21st, something like that. So, you had the election that he had leverage against Poroshenko for, and didn't work out. He didn't do it. Zelensky wins. So he needs leverage on Zelensky. So what happens? End of June, they go in and get the aid for Zelensky in the Ukraine. End of July, he has the phone call. 1st of September, they're asking where the money is. You know what I'm saying? by September 11th, when they released the funds, they're saying, oh, Ukraine didn't even know that those funds were held up. Yeah, they were. It's already been reported and testified to that Ukrainian officials asked Mike Pence in person to his face, where was the aid on September 1st. On July 25th, the day of the phone call with Zelensky, that Trump had this famous phone call, approximately 90 minutes later, is whenever they made the call to the OMB to put the freeze on the funds. I mean, this stuff is insane. The 26th, the very next day, is when the whistleblower made his report. And a month after that, on September 26th, is when the House Intel Committee released it. So 2 weeks after they released the funds, the House Intel Committee releases the whistleblower report. Trump knew about the whistleblower report before he released the funds. It happened over a month before he released the funds. So again, I think Mr. Parnas would be a very valuable witness if you can back up a lot of these public claims he's been making. And so far, with the evidence that he's provided, photographs, video recordings, audio recordings, etc., that seems highly likely. But I don't know, guys. It's just my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I hope you liked this video. If you didn't, guess what? Subscribe, hit that notification bell, come back and hate me again tomorrow. Thanks, guys.